Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of Vantage Point on ITV. I'm your host, Mohammed Choonara. Thank you for joining us. This week, the biggest story that everybody is speaking about is the resignation after 37 years in power of Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the coming few weeks as a new dispensation takes control of Zimbabwe. Will it be the same, or will Zimbabweans really have a new dawn as Mugabe resigns after 37 years in power? Will it be much of the same? Will Emmerson Mnangagwa bring the change that Zimbabweans so much crave for in the country that has been under so much economic problems for the last 20 years or so? But also, it's time for us to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Allah to assist all of us in this time of need in South Africa and all over the world, where we see so many problems in different parts of the world. So for us now, it's time to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Allah to guide us, to guide our leaders, and make it all easy for all of us in the world. In tonight's show on Vantage Point, we bring you an exclusive interview that I conducted with former MP Makosi Koza, and after the break we'll be speaking to Maulana Ibrahim Bam and Maulana Abdul Khalik Ali from the Muslim Judicial Council, and they'll be chatting to us about the current political crisis in South Africa and also the Interfaith Prayer Day. But first, let's go to the interview with Makosi Koza. I'm delighted to be joined now by Ms. Makosi Koza, the former MP who resigned from Parliament. Ms. Koza, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Ms. Koza, as we just said a few seconds ago off air, I've got so many things to ask you, but let's start. You an ANC MP, you decided to resign. We know about the death threats that you got. You also somebody who spoke out very strongly against state capture. The first question I'd like to ask you, you were a member of this administration for many years. Do you feel that many other MPs were and are complicit by not taking the stand that you took?
To be honest with you, I was also equally complicit. You know, if you are part of the liberation movement, it becomes like your biological family. In fact, I spent more time in the ANC than I spent with my biological parents. And you keep on hoping that things are going to get better. And things, they never get better, they get worse. It's like when you have a relationship, maybe your father is not doing the things that a father ought to be doing in the home, or maybe he's become an alcoholic or whatever. You keep on hoping that the father is going to realize that what he's doing is wrong. So I do think that quite a number of them are still stuck in that kind of mode of thinking that, you know, the ANC would self-correct, which I no longer subscribe to.
Okay, speaking about the ANC self-correcting, we see, I just spoke a few minutes ago to Mavuso Msimang about the stalwarts having their own consultative conference, but we see the ANC have distanced themselves from it. Do you feel that the ANC are taking a stand where they are not willing to self-correct, or are they all, as Minister Batablili Dlamini said, they've all got their Smolanyana skeleton, so they're scared to self-correct?
You know, to be honest with you, I firmly believe that if we were to prosecute just on the basis of the state capture or even the Gupta leaked emails only, I really do believe that we might actually find over 80% of the ANC leadership going to jail.
But that's a huge number, 80%.
Absolutely, and that's precisely why you will actually find that people are not prepared. They don't want us to move anywhere close to prosecution.
Something that happened today in Zimbabwe, I watched TV for most of the afternoon, seeing hundreds of thousands of people taking to the streets in Zimbabwe. It's a moment that people never thought would happen, where people stood up against President Robert Mugabe. Do you think if things don't get better in South Africa, we see poverty of 30 million, mostly black people living in poverty. If you don't see a change in the status quo in this country, do you see that people will take to the streets and also come up with maybe with a mini revolution in this country?
To be honest with you, I think in this country we already have an indicator. On the 7th of April, throughout the country, people took out into the streets in their thousands. I mean, along color lines, along cultural groups, along faith-based organizations. I mean, you name it. Everybody realized that none but ourselves can change this country. I think we are reaching that stage, and I think with the unemployment rate of over 27%, and if you use the expanded definition, over 38%, of which 56% of that is the youth. I'm telling you, we are this close to the cliff. That's my view.
But see, the ANC have been in power now for 25, 26 years. They've been in power. We see a lot of good that the ANC have done as well. Do you also find sometimes that the media portrays the negative, although there are negatives, and just putting aside the positives that the ANC do? For an example, the amount of hospitals that have been built, we see many more houses that have been built. So do you feel that the media are biased towards the ANC, and is that bias justified?
No, I don't think so. I think the ANC, when it came to power, it did what South Africans were expecting them to do. They delivered the houses. They tried to, they delivered electricity, they delivered water, and they delivered quite a number of basic services. The access to education is very high, but the media has a specific role to play as part of the checks and balances. The fact is that which the ANC has achieved is being eroded by corruption, by state capture, by all these things. And the media is absolutely correct to bring that out. And I think it's good. If we didn't have an independent, vociferous media and the independent judiciary, I'm afraid I don't think we would even be talking about these issues. And that is why they are out in the open.
Okay, many critics of yourself, you'll see former Public Protector Thuli Madonsela, former Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan, his deputy Mcebisi Jonas. Critics of you people have said that you are in the pocket of white monopoly capital, and I use this term very loosely. There seems to be a very significant shift now in the, if I call it for lack of a better word, black Twitter, saying that we've got white monopoly capital against radical economic transformation. What is the whole story going on there? Why are these accusations flung at you people, knowing that a lot of people know that you have worked so hard to get corruption out of government? And corruption has no color. It could be white corruption, black corruption, Indian corruption.
You know, the danger with the apartheid constructs. In fact, in one of the talks I was giving yesterday, I was saying, I don't understand why we are still calling Indians Indians. We should be saying they're South Africans of Indian origin and not Indians, because they are here. Some of them, they don't even know how India looks like. The same thing with white people. We have white people in this country, and I don't know what is white about them, frankly. Because to me, if something is an injustice, irrespective of who commits it, if it's a white person that is doing it, we've got to tackle it. If it's a black person, we need to equally tackle it. No matter who that person is, an injustice is an injustice. However, having said that, we cannot run away from the fact that as this country, we still have an economy that is defined along racial lines, and that is the history that we need to deal with. And that is why it's precisely more painful when the very people who are supposed to be representing the poorest of the poor are the ones who are betraying the mission, because they perpetuate the apartheid stereotypes that black people share collective stupidity, which is not true. You know, and it is very important for us to rise up against these people, and we must not allow them to belittle what we say, to trivialize what we say, to rationalize what we say, because there is nothing about, you know, that has color about corruption. The truth is, I have had so many South Africans of Indian origins rejecting the state capture, rejecting the Guptas. Have they stopped being, are they not proud of being South Africans of Indian origin? I believe they still do, but it's because that is wrong. They can't simply defend it simply because it's to me, if once you start looking at things that way, you are actually tantamount to being a racist.
I think it's very important that you say corruption has no color. My final question to you would be, I'm not going to ask you who's going to win in December, but if our Makosi Koza sitting here now, who would you prefer to see as the next ANC leader, and which ANC leader can take the ANC out of the current rut that it's in to a more prosperous ANC that's going to be of benefit to the people of South Africa?
I don't think I'm the correct person to be asked that question, because I took a conscious decision, I thought through it, I prayed over it, and when I took the decision that I'm leaving the ANC, it's because I no longer believe in the leadership that we have. I don't believe in all the 7 candidates, presidential candidates that we have. They did not stand up when they were supposed to. And to me, if you are a leader and you are not able to stand up and be courageous enough at the moment when the country needs you, to me, really, you don't qualify to be an honorable citizen.
Koza, thank you so much for your time. Really interesting points, but I still just wanted to get an answer, but I respect your decision that you've made. Maybe one more question. Will you actually consider joining another formation or another breakaway party of the ANC should that happen?
No, actually what is currently happening, I've been approached by a number of formations. It's very, very interesting. I've been approached by formations that some of them have contested elections before, and some people are coming from the DA, others are coming from the ANC, others are coming from the EFF. And what is very interesting is that all these people are saying we need to create a society that is focus on the concerns of citizens, and we also need to create a society that is going to be able to really address the issues of moral and ethical leadership in this country, because we believe that amoral and immoral leadership can fail a very, very noble cause, that is of ensuring that all South Africans, irrespective of color, they have jobs. Because if you don't have a job, there's no way you can enjoy human dignity. And as a result, we are now matching all these interests together, and we are using our constitution as the foundation. So watch this space. Soon we will be coming with a new political home for South Africans, for those who would like to associate with us.
That's really interesting from Ms. Makosi Koza, the former MP. So as she says, watch the space. Ms. Koza, thank you so much for your time.
I truly appreciate Islamic TV. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
We'll be back after this break. Welcome back to Vantage Point. I'm delighted to be joined in studio now by Maulana Ibrahim Bam and Maulana Abdul Khalik Ali from the Muslim Judicial Council, and Maulana Bam from the Jamiatul Ulama South Africa. Maulana, Jazakallah for joining me. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Vantage Point.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Wa alaikum salam and assalamu alaikum to all the viewers.
South Africa is at the crossroads at the moment. We see upstage in crime, we see the problems in the ruling ANC, and there's a lot of problems going around. And it's also time for us to turn to our ulama for guidance to see what can we as the people do. In the first part of the show, we played you an interview with a former ANC MP, Makosi Koza, where she told us what the problems are and what the solutions are. But we reminded so many times in the Quran, in the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that we need to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all times, and especially in times of need. Maulana, as I mentioned, South Africa is at a crossroads, as the Jamiat's press release put it. What can we as Muslims do?
Well, there is no doubt whatsoever that in South Africa we are at a crossroads, in the sense that in 1994, South Africa woke up to a new dawn. And many people thought about it as an era in which there is going to be peace, justice, security, harmony, etc. Sad to say, in many ways, that particular dream has not been able to reach fruition for whatever reasons, whether it be the politicians, whether it be other forces, whatever it is. I think it's now a given point that on the minds of many, on the tongues of many, it hasn't been able to reach fruition. However, we can't be despondent. We have to try our utmost. and we are living in this, in this country, we have to try our utmost to be able to do something for the betterment of the country and to be able to play our role with regard to peace, harmony, and betterment of the society. Now, the Jamiat al-Ulama have taken out a press release and have taken out a poster that is on the masjid boards, which has also been very widely distributed, calling upon the Muslim community that we should increase our prayers, we should play our role with regard to putting our shoulder to the wheel to make South Africa a better place, strive for justice, strive for peace and harmony, and also turn towards Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and hoping that inshallah by our turning towards Almighty Allah, Allah will change the conditions for the better. Obviously there are other steps also that we will be discussing, but I think that is what I would like to say in my opening.
Maulana Abdul Khalik, are you concerned at the current political situation in South Africa?
Very much so. In fact, all indicators are there that across the country, recently, during the past few days, a person who has been nominated to represent at the ANC conference, elective conference, has been killed in KwaZulu-Natal. Now, immediately that shows you the high level of intensity that there are in and around the country. It is a deep concern to not only the Muslim community, but across the spectrum of all faith communities. And definitely we, as the Muslim community, you asked Maulana Ibrahim Bam, an important question. As a citizen of this country, we all have got to play our significant contributive role in addressing, identifying the issues, identifying the problem, and then be able to say, how do we address those particular issues at hand?
Sometimes we feel we're living in this cocoon where things don't affect us as much. But as both of you have said, that we're living in the country, we're citizens of this country, we need to be involved in the politics of the country. Something very sad in the last few years, we've seen very few Muslims so involved in politics. I remember in Nelson Mandela's first cabinet, there were so many more Muslims in that cabinet, and over the years we've seen that numbers declining and declining. What is the reason for the lack of will by Muslims to go into mainstream politics?
Well, it is very sad. I think sometimes it's more, complacency may be one of the reasons. Sometimes a degree of sarcasm. So, we don't seem to care. So we're more worried and more safe to be armchair critics rather than getting involved. Now, there is no way that you get involved without getting criticized. The only way you are going to save yourself from criticism is to do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing. Then, of course, you will be safe from criticism. But is that the right way? You will be able to save yourself from criticism. But that means you don't have the courage of your convictions to be able to put your shoulder to the wheel, or, for example, doing something that is constructive. It is very sad. And I think the point that is very clear is, we as people of a country, there is no way you can live in an island of serenity and peace and tranquility if the surroundings around you are not peace and tranquil. You cannot live in complete peace if the surrounding environments are not peaceful. So in a country, you either raise together or you fall together. And if you are not going to be able to do that, to make an effort that everyone lifts up the standard of living, the prosperity, the peace, etc., then if you live in an island thinking that that particular discontent that is out there will not reach you, then many times, as we have learned and as we have seen, it doesn't happen that way.
Maulana, you mentioned raising together and for the unity of the country. Now, inshallah, this week, we're going to see the interfaith prayer. If you can tell us more about it.
Yeah, so the fact of the matter is that the Muslim community, we are identified as an important interfaith role player. We make part of the interfaith community and family. We cannot be isolated from any interfaith when we are called by the interfaith community, because the Muslim community constitute a percentage of the South African population. So when the interfaith community have identified there's a national need, there's a cry for prayer, because in our history it has been proven that at the critical junctions of our history of the political turmoil, the faith leaders played an important, pivotal, constructive and a visible role. In the crossroads that we find ourselves in now, the faith leaders identify that it is perhaps now the time where we need to come together and where we need to share the platform of praying. So on Sunday, under the leadership of the Motsepe Foundation, they have brought faith leaders together from across the country, saying, let us discuss this particular matter. And in fact, this whole prayer had been interrogated by the faith leaders. Is it a good idea? Yes, we identify with the crisis, and eventually it was decided we need to be able to have this particular prayer. And one of the significant points in this particular matter with references to the national prayer, it is for unity, but equally every single faith community has been given its independence. People are being told, you do your prayer at your leisure, according to your method. It is not being dictated to or by any of the other faith communities, and that speaks about the volume of our coexistence and the fact that we have the freedom of religion in our country.
Where will it be taking place, the times, the venues?
Well, it's taking place in the FNB Stadium, and it will be from the morning 8 o'clock right up to 4 o'clock. There will be a space allotted for 10-15 minutes for the Muslim prayer, which I think would be at about 5 to 1. However, the point is this, and I think maybe what we need to understand, and one of our great scholars, Mufti Mahmud Sahib Rahmatullah used to give this example. If you're flying, say, between Joburg and Dubai, just for an example, then people would be flying in that aircraft for various reasons. Some will be going for entertainment, some will be going for work, some will be going for business, some will be going to meet the family. But while you are in that plane, irrespective of the different intentions people have for flying, it is in the interest of everyone that that particular flight be a safe flight and everyone reach their destination safely. In a similar manner, we are part of a country, and people have different views, different faiths, different inclinations. But while we are in this country, irrespective of your different backgrounds, irrespective of your different inclinations, it is in the interest of everyone that the country be safe, secure, peaceful, and harmonious. And that is what the whole situation is. Praying from our side, and of course we have made the call both for the Muslim community in the masajid and on a broader basis, playing our role to make a dua and a prayer for a peaceful and prosperous South Africa. Because one of the greatest concerns at the moment is that the organs of states have seemed to be completely demoralized. So whether you take health, whether you take education, whether you take safety and security, those particular such important functions don't seem to be functioning optimally. And I think what we need to be doing is turning towards Almighty Allah, making dua individually and collectively.
Mentioned something very important, that our state organs are demoralized, and we're always complaining. We say we pay our taxes, but we can't use this. And this is an opportunity for us to start somewhere where we can make a difference to the country. And dua, as it's mentioned, is the most potent weapon of a believer. So I think dua is very important, and it's really important for our viewers out there to realize the importance of attending these functions. And may Allah Ta'ala make it a success for everybody involved in it.
Amen. So one of the key things that Maulana was in our deliberations mentioned, and I think is an important point, that here we have an opportunity where the Muslim community, being part of South African society, have the opportunity to present a verse of the glorious Quran, the prayer of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to showcase the beauty of that teaching that is universal, that is meant for all times. And so, dua, in actual fact, is the essence where it can change the outlook of many things in our community and society. We find this in a personal capacity, in a communal level, and here we have a national opportunity to present the most beautiful of prayers and dua and the message from Islam and the Muslim community to showcase that the destabilization in our country or the peace in our country, we are all need for that particular prayer and dua.
Jazakallah Maulana Abdul Khalik, Maulana Ibrahim Bam. We've run out of time. Just a reminder to our viewers, inshallah, on Sunday at the FNB Stadium, Soccer City in Nazareth, the interfaith prayer will be taking place. So if you're in the area, try and make a plan and get to that prayer so we can all be together as one in South Africa. We are part of this country, we are part of this rainbow nation, and it's time for us now to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Allah to guide us and guide our leaders as we come to a very important phase in our young democracy. From all of us in the team, we hope you have a wonderful week ahead. Until we meet again, fi amanillah, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.